All right, here we go. Foundational guide on roundabouts. There are a couple of foundational rules that lead into roundabouts. And one of the things that I want you all to be, and I harp on this all the time because I hate driving out there in amongst all the other drivers, and then they don't use proper signaling procedures. Or they think that by not signaling, they are not signaling, which is absolute nonsense. As far as I'm concerned, you may as well, if you're not signaling, it's as good as putting on your right signal and turning left. There's no difference. It's the same thing. You're making a mistake. So I will harp on that always. There are three signals. It's a right, a go ahead, and a left.
Hey there! Enjoying this content? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on more informative content like this. Now let's get back to the lesson.
And the other thing too, which is actually something that I would love the industry to introduce, but I've been teaching my students this, and all the students that I've taught this have told me it's made a difference to the way they see signaling. And that is that the outcomes of a signal has two possibilities. One, it's to tell people where you go, where you're going, where you intend to go, or what you intend to do. Or the other outcome is to tell people what you want to do, so that you're asking them to give you space and to allow you into a lane or into a line of traffic. And that will make such a difference if the people, they do naturally do it, but they don't think about it. A lot of people will act on the principle that you're asking and then hold back to allow you. But it's not taught. It's not part of the DVSA. And I think that that's wrong. I actually believe the DVSA should say, remember, there are two outcomes or two requests on a signal. One is to tell everybody where you're going, and the second is to ask. You're asking to be let into a lane or into a road where there's heavy traffic or where there's no gaps for you. So you're asking to be allowed in there. You're telling, this is what I want to do, please let me in. But you don't force your way in because you're asking. Because you ask, you put on your signal, move to the right position to indicate you want to use that lane, and wait for somebody to give you a gap to move into the lane. And then, honestly, I've been driving for a very long time, and I use that principle a lot. And I will not force my way into a lane. I'll just wait. I'll just slow down, stop, and wait until somebody gives me a gap and lets me in. And normally, it's not more than 2 or 3 cars. Normally, by the third car, he'll hold back and let you in. So, foundational guide on roundabouts. So, remember signaling, right? That's where we start. Know your ground rules of signals. Know where they are. Know how to use them. Know how you can put on a partial signal. So I'll put on a question here. Who would like to have a quick go at what do I mean by a partial signal? It's terminology you might not have heard before. Does anybody know what is a partial signal? Yes, Samuel?
Yeah, so partial signal, for how I get it, is like you try to put on that signal before you get to the runabout or whichever junction you're going, but then you put it off again.
Yes, you're right, Samuel. So on your indicator stick, if you push it all the way through, it'll click into position and it will stay on. Sometimes you just want about 6 clicks just to warn people, and then you push it up, but you don't push it through into the hold position. That's a partial signal. So when you click it up like that, it'll click up, come back to the neutral position, and you'll get about 6 clicks. It'll go tick, 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 and then go off. And that's a partial signal. So now sometimes when you're changing lanes on the highway, you would use a partial signal because you're just telling people, look, there's not a lot of traffic behind you. You just want to tell everybody you're moving into the right-hand lane or moving back into the left-hand lane. That's the application of a typical application of a partial signal, because you're not turning your steering wheel enough to actually cancel the signal. If you put it all the way through, then you will have to cancel it by pulling it back to the neutral position. And you should actually practice that when you get in your car. Switch on your ignition and in a quiet place, just practice and find out how the partial signal feels on your indicator. Normally, the moment before you go over the ridge where it goes into the holding position, it will still kick back to neutral, but the signal will signal for about 6 clicks. Normally it's about 6. All right.
Mansura asked, what is the purpose of partial signaling?
Well, the purpose is just to give people an indication. You might just be in the process of changing lanes, or you're thinking about doing something. It's a warning. It's often a warning more than it is anything else. It's not I am doing. In lane changes, you must decide, do you use a partial or do you use a full signal? If you're pretty much alone on the road, then partial signal only changing lanes is normally enough. Okay? All right. So, foundational guide on roundabouts. Now, I will hop on this forever. Identify. Guys, it's in the identify that the errors start, by not identifying the junctions. Identifying, not knowing, not picking up, and then those things turn into inadequate observations. You know what you're doing. If you do those sort of things, you know how identify can help you. Identify the stop line, identify the giveaway line. By identifying it and knowing the consequences of what needs to follow by your actions, that is how you make sure you do the correct observations. And that's how you don't fail your tests with observations, because that's where people mostly fail their tests. Then it's mirror signal maneuver. So I always say it's IMSM, because you can't mirror signal maneuver. How do you apply it if you haven't identified and know what you're dealing with? Okay, so I'm just bringing that in because it'll come up in the roundabouts. Okay, identify and know what type of roundabout. We've been over these in a previous thing. We're just recapping at the moment. So you have mini open, closed, and spiral open or closed. Spiral roundabouts. I've even seen some mini roundabouts that are now being marked spirals. It's very much a fad. It's a good thing. It works really well if you understand it. But mini open and closed, those are your main categories of roundabouts, and I'll just give you a short definition for each one. A mini is identified by the sign at the mini roundabout. End of story. Not the markings on the road. The markings on the road contribute, but the sign is what identifies a mini roundabout. Open is identified by the fact that you can go into the roundabout and you can turn it into a racing circuit. If you were a chav, you don't need to stop for anybody. You have priority going around it. You can just hold that and go around it the whole time. And then a closed roundabout is one where you have traffic lights, giveaway lines, or stop lines in the roundabout where the priority changes. So you don't have like a freeway all the way around the roundabout. There are traffic lights or all sorts of things in the roundabout that change the priority on the roundabout itself to let cars into the roundabout. Okay, it's not a judgment into the roundabout. It's not a giveaway or a right of way into the roundabout. It is something that changes the priority on the people going around the roundabout. Okay, that's a closed roundabout. Guys, these are the basics. Get this right. Understand that you will always be coming in at the bottom of the roundabout. You will always be coming at the 6 o'clock. The leaderboards which you get before the roundabout, tell you where the exits are in relation to your position coming onto the roundabout. So if somebody in this case said to you, you are going, please go to the third exit. Who would like to tell me, okay, let's call this an open roundabout, this leaderboard. I don't know, somebody might actually know it's not, but I think it's an open roundabout. Let's call it an open roundabout. And you're going to the third exit. What would the signaling sequence be for that third exit? Maria, your hand came up first, Maria. Yeah.
Okay, I would say that your signalling would be to signal right until you pass the exit before you're coming off, and then change to a left.
Okay, failed, Maria. Sorry. Okay, Maria. No. I'm going to show you how to do it. It has a relationship with the clock. You can actually work it out with the clock. And what you said, you could get away with it, but it's not the correct sequence. It depends how you deal with it afterwards. But it's not actually the correct sequence. Sura, you wanted to give me a chat.
Good evening, BDS team.
How are you?
And thanks for being great to all of us. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity given to me tonight. Yes, it depends on where the third exit falls on the face of the clock. Just like you rightly said, that we assume where we're coming from, where we're entering from, is the 6 on the clock. So it depends whether that third exit falls after the 12 o'clock or before 12 o'clock.
Yes, that's right. That's perfect. So if I'm going to the third exit on the roundabout, which is Birmingham Bourne, what would be my signaling in a case like that?
Yeah, is it before? Is the third exit, does it fall before the 12 o'clock?
What does it look like on the leaderboard? It's directly at 12 o'clock.
On 12 o'clock. Okay. The signaling will be, you don't have to, because that's like you're going straight ahead, because you're coming from 6, you're going to 12. So you don't have to, but immediately after you leave the second, because that's the third, immediately you leave the second, you now signal to left that you're entering it.
That's correct. But where would you position yourself? So you're saying you're going
to the left.
Yes, you're right. You are absolutely right. Because it's at 12 o'clock, you keep to the left. You go in no signal because you're not going to take the first exit. You go in no signal, you keep to the left, and then you signal out at the exit before your exit. That's exactly correct. So, guys, what we're going to talk about now. Okay, so that was right. So what Ms. Manasura said, she said, as you come up to the roundabout, you are at the 6 o'clock. You're coming in at the bottom. You're going round 1, 2 to the third exit. As you go around, you stay on the outside, go in no signal, keep to the left, and signal out at the exit prior to your exit. As you go out here, you signal out going out on the exit. Who can tell me? This is an easy one. Come on, guys. You should all be jumping up and down and recognize this. Is this for a sausage roll? This is where you buy sausage rolls. Maria, I see you want to redeem, Maria.
So this is a sign for a mini roundabout.
Okay, that's the first thing. That's right. That's
which would be positioned at the roundabout.
At the actual junction where the mini roundabout is. Correct. That's absolutely correct. And the third question always is, why does this have to be at the actual junction?
To differentiate from another roundabout?
Yeah, from an open roundabout. That is also correct.
Yeah.
But what happens, the thing is that maybe the paint on the ground is worn. Maybe there's light.
Oh, I see, yes.
Yeah. Or it's raining heavily. You can't see. Or there's light shining on the road surface and you can't see. Or there's an inch of snow covering it.
I wouldn't be driving in an inch of snow.
Probably not, Maria. Here's what I'll stay up. Okay, but that's what the reason is. So that the junction, if there's any reason that it's not visible, then it is. Well done, Maria. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, so that's what this is. 3 things here, guys. Where is it positioned? At the actual junction itself. It needs to tell everybody this junction where these roads meet here, this is a mini roundabout. Number 2, it is there to not only tell people that this is a mini roundabout, it is also there to make absolutely sure that if it's snow or there's any other reason, you can recognize it as the junction as a mini roundabout, because the locals know it's a mini roundabout, but you might be new in the area and then you don't know it's a mini roundabout and then you get everything wrong. Now, this sign is common. It's a hazard warning. Its only function is to tell you you're approaching a roundabout. It could be anything. It could be any type of roundabout. It could be a mini, open, closed, whatever, turbo, whatever, all these funny names. It just tells you you're approaching a roundabout. And it's normally positioned anything from 50 to 100 to 200 meters away, depending on the speed of the road. The speed of the road will determine the distance this sign will be from the actual roundabout itself. That's all it is. It's a hazard warning sign telling you you're approaching a roundabout. And it's also a very hopeful sign because we've got blue skies. Wonderful. Okay. Now, this is not a mini roundabout. Why do I say it's not a mini roundabout? These chevrons in the middle and the sign are placed at the entry points to the roundabout. So as you enter the roundabout, this blue sign in the middle tells you you have to go to the left on the roundabout. You have to go left around the roundabout. And this is a very typical open roundabout setup. Sometimes there's one chevron and the blue sign is above this a single chevron. Here they've got more chevrons, and sometimes the chevrons are laid in the bricks themselves going around the roundabout. But normally this is an open roundabout sign. I haven't seen them mix this up in a mini roundabout. There are mini roundabouts that also have like a grass verge in the center, and then they're still marked as a mini roundabout. I have seen that where it's not just a white dot. but I've never seen them mix in the chevrons. But, you know, they might do that. I don't know. But mostly mini roundabouts are a white dot, and there is no obstruction in the center of the road. Okay, so that's open. So these are the basic rules. Guys, just learn the rules. Simple as that. These rules more or less apply for all the roundabouts. And it's the starting point of the application of the rules, these rules. And we've already had an allusion to these rules. So the way it works is like this. Just quietly think about it. These rules are the basic rules. So when you approach a roundabout, and let's say mini, open, close, whatever, you need to consider these 3 rules. This is what you start with. If you are taking the first exit on a roundabout, it doesn't matter where it is on the roundabout. You go in with your left signal and keep to the left-hand side, carrying your left signal all the way through the roundabout. In left signal, keep left signal on, and exit at the first exit with your left signal on. Now, it doesn't matter what the situation is. That's the prime rule. Now, that first exit might be beyond 12 o'clock. It's still on the prime rule. It's the first exit. So you would go in with your left signal, keep your left signal on, stay on the outside of the roundabout, all the way past 12 o'clock. There are no other exits, and then you would go out on that exit. The second rule is if your exit is less than or equal to 12 o'clock. So in other words, and that's a situation we had with the query I gave you guys. It was a third exit, but it was at 12 o'clock. Which means it is at 12 o'clock, then it's no signal going in, keep left with your signal, and signal out left at the exit prior to your exit. Simple. Where is the exit? Is it at 12 o'clock or less? Simple. Really simple. It's not the first exit, so prime rule's gone. And it doesn't matter the number of the exit. The number of the exit doesn't matter. Don't start getting into, oh, it was the third exit. The third exit might be at 11 o'clock, might not be at 12 o'clock. So the rule is in relation to the clock. That's why we do the clock. It's in relation to the clock. That's what it is. It's in relation to the clock. If the exit is less than or equal to 12 o'clock, no signal in, keep to the left, keep left, signal out left at the exit prior to your exit. So as you pass the last exit before your exit, you signal out. That's what you do. That rule is the second rule. And the third rule is easy. The third rule is your exit is beyond 12 o'clock. So it's past your entry at 12 o'clock. It's past your 12 o'clock position. And then it's right signal in, keep right with the right signal on, then signal out left at the exit prior to your exit. That's it. Job done. Those are the 3 basic rules. Now, the time these change slightly is when there are different configurations. And now we go to the next one. The third rule is your exit is beyond 12 o'clock. If your exit is beyond 12 o'clock, you go in with your right signal, you keep to the inside, and you signal out at the exit prior to your exit. Okay?
Okay.
Let me just go back. Okay, so what happens is, if you look at this leaderboard here on the right-hand side, that's called a leaderboard. It shows you where the exits are going on the roundabout. You will always be coming in from the bottom. You see the 6 o'clock point here on the clock? You will always be coming in from the bottom. Now, the rules relate to your entry point on the roundabout. So if you're going to the first exit, this one here, this little one, the first exit here, the one going to Nutfield, A11, A3, that is the first exit. So you would go in with your left signal, keep left, and left signal out. That's the first exit. But if you're going to the M1, the M15 M1, which is directly opposite you, you're going to the 12 o'clock position, which means you go in and you keep to the left, you go in no signal, keep to the left, and then you put your left signal going out. And that's now the second rule. So if your exit is at 12 o'clock or less, say it's 11 o'clock, like this one here, to Pendleton, then it is in no signal, keep to the left, left signal out at the exit prior to your exit. All right, guys. So let's get back to where we were. Now, the last thing, I put together this table. And so that you can all see down at the bottom here, you can see how the clock is overlaid onto the roundabout, this bottom right hand corner. But here, this is a table which tells you basically, and I'm just going to run through the table and then I'll take you through each one of the blocks. So the table talks about mini roundabouts. So these are the things that are unique to mini roundabouts. This is what is unique to an open roundabout, including an open spiral roundabout. And this is what is unique to a closed, including a spiral roundabout, closed spiral roundabout. So the first thing is identify. You need to identify. You need to ID it so that you know what you're dealing with. The mini roundabout, you're going to use the blue sign with the chasing arrows. On the open roundabout, you'll see the one-way sign coming up to the roundabout with the chevrons, and there'll be no traffic lights or anything funny in the roundabout itself. And in the closed roundabouts, you'll have traffic lights, or mostly it'll be traffic lights, and that makes it a closed roundabout. Now, interestingly, things change. On the approach signal and entry signal changes. This is really interesting. So in a mini roundabout, your signal is determined by your exit point. What does that mean? That means that when you come up to the roundabout, you need to know, are you going 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock, or 3 o'clock? And you would have one signal. There's no exit signal. Guys, no exit signal. You use an exit signal, you get penalized. Mini roundabout is one signal. You carry your signal all the way through the roundabout. You all understand that, so carry your signal all the way through the roundabout. If you're going right, put on your right signal all the way through, and when you're off the roundabout on the road, you cancel your signal. That's it. No exit signal. Mini roundabout is determined by your exit, one signal. You see, one phase of signaling. There it is. Your signaling is determined by your exit, and you have one phase of signaling. Nice and simple. Single phase. Okay, that's a mini roundabout. For an open roundabout, including spiral, you'll have that one way and the chevron in the middle. We showed you that. And then you use the clocks and the leaderboard to determine your signaling process. And normally there's two phases of signaling. So you're going in, let's say you're going straight ahead. Let's look at this at the bottom here. If you're going straight ahead, you can go on either lane there because that's how the lanes are marked. If you're going straight ahead on this red line, you would go in no signal, keep to the left, and then as you pass the exit prior to your exit, you put on your left signal and you go through. So two phases. You went in with no signaling, and you signaled out as you went out. So this is an open roundabout. So you have two phases of signaling. Now, people will say, well, what about the prime rule? Well, still two phases, because you go in with your left signal, and then you hold your left signal going out. That's the second phase. It's the same signal, but it's still two phases. And so it is with every other exit on this roundabout. Is that clear? So, open roundabouts, two phases of signaling. Now, closed and spiral closed, mostly on those, you would have three phases of signaling. You would have an entry signal, which, depending on the lane positioning, if you're taking first exit, you'd go in with the left. If you're taking a third or fourth exit on the right, you'd go in with the right. But normally you might have 3 or 4 lanes entering, and if you're going in the middle lanes, you would normally go in with no signal. Then you would have a lane changing signal process. If you were going round to a fourth or fifth exit, you might have to come out crossing lanes, and you'd have a lane signaling process. And then you'd have your exit signal at the exit prior to your exit. You will have to drift out on the lanes using your left signal. But for goodness sake, don't go into a big closed roundabout and keep to the left-hand lane because you'll have people crossing you. It'll just be an absolute nightmare. Don't do that. If you're going beyond the 12 o'clock position, go in with your right signal, and then you might only need 2 phases of signaling, but there is potential to be using 3 phases of signaling. Okay, and then here we've got all 3 of the main images put together: leaderboard, the clock, how the clock works. You're always coming in from the bottom on this bottom one, and the clock superimposed on top of the thing. So what you always want to do is you want to make sure you identify, is it a mini, open, or is closed? And how do you identify a spiral? A spiral has lanes spiraling outwards. And the way you identify it with a promulgation. there's a promulgation on the inner lane. Okay, guys, that's more or less the end of my slideshow for this evening. So just going over the rules, know the 3 basic rules, know how to identify your roundabouts, and consider your signaling phases.
Hi there! If you're enjoying this video and want to see more, head over to www.bds.ac, our interactive video e-learning platform. With BDS Academy, you can learn to drive online from the comfort of your home at your own pace, saving you both time and money. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.bds.ac today. We'll see you there.